is the Onion News Network.
What's going on, everybody? Good to be with you. This is Derek J. broadcasting from Feens in the Shire. It's Sunday evening, June 1st, 2014. You know, that means we made it to half of the year. Congratulations, everybody. 2014 is half over. That's right. The summer is beginning, and it's very exciting. I've just spent a whole week in Keene, New Hampshire. I just moved up here from Philadelphia, and Keene is special because it's a place filled with activism. There's always something going on. Today I participated in a meeting where people got together and talked about the different projects that they're individually working on and how one another can help each other out. Like where are some things, where are some needs that aren't being met? And for example, I volunteered to take up a morning volunteer opportunity to hand out "Don't Take the Plea Deal" outreach. That's flyers that explain the benefit of a plea deal, which is where the guy brings you into court and then offers you less of a penalty in exchange for you just pleading guilty and saying, I'm going to forfeit a trial. Well, no. Taking it to trial has, like, you can gain your freedom back because of the kindness and conscience of your peers. It's a real opportunity for jury nullification. Jury is saying it's illegal is not upsetting to their conscience enough to say that it warrants a penalty of taking a person behind bars. So, Don't Take the Plea Deal outreach is something that goes on 5 days a week here in Keene in the mornings when people are walking into the court in your town. Many of them, probably upwards of 90%, charged with victimless crimes. That's crimes like speeding, having an open conflict, smoking a joint. These crimes that involve no victims, they're all walking into court every day in your town, and they are taking this plea deal, saying, yes, your penalties, I will, in most cases, it's live under the thumb of probation officers, where it's like a second, it's a parents for adults, is what it is. It's government parents. So you get into a cup for them, you prove that everything inside is authentically obedient to their wishes. So, if you don't like that system, if you don't want to just keep that going, well then you have to do something different. And you don't always have the opportunity to refuse a plea deal because you may not be in trouble with the law. But if you spread this idea to others, there are, I think, over 90%, maybe 97% nationally of government don't make it to plea out. So people are just saying, I don't want to take the risk, I don't want to take the time or the money or whatever effort it takes to take this to court. It's a big risk because if you go to court, you could piss off the judge and the prosecutors, the local government enough that they're upset with you and they want to penalize you more. So if you took a plea deal, maybe you get 1 year. If you take it to court, you get 80 years. Who knows? In Rich Paul's case, activist extraordinaire from, I believe, Michigan, as part of the Free State Project years ago, for the crime of selling plant matter to another consenting adult who wanted money. That's a crime, apparently. These two consenting adults, and daddy government thought that it was the right thing to do to stand between them, capture Rich, throw him in a concrete cell, and then threaten in that crime of selling us plant matter, which he didn't deny doing. He was plain about it. Said, yes, clearly, I've sold this plant matter. This vegetation in your pocket, yes, I delivered it. Is that a crime? And so he took it to trial, offered no time in his plea deal. He was facing 80 years for that charge and others. And he decided to take them to court. Now, unfortunately, in his case, the jury was not convinced. Perhaps dispute whether or not the jury understood, as it was understanding that appeal, and so a higher court will now be hearing Rich's case. And I hope that he is vindicated in court, that the next jury has jury nullification clearly explained to them, and they say, look, this guy sold cannabis, a plant that grows almost anywhere in the world and has innumerable medical benefits. We're not going to convict him. We don't think he belongs behind bars. Leave this man alone and stop wasting your time capturing people like him. The attitudes of the public is clearly changing. As state after state, their local governments to say, okay, who continue the drug war. People can see it. Can see it clearly, thanks to people like Rich, who made these arguments and put them forward and had the courage to say, well, and I'm going to be open and honest about it.
what to put in our bodies than they have to take our guns or tell us what books we can read.
6 drug police were eaten by bears while raiding a marijuana farm.
On your knees, you dirty hippies! On your knees! What's the problem, officer?
Today,
Okay, whoa, sorry about that, everyone. So, I clearly lost connection. Hopefully this is part of the same live hangout event. Looks like we are still live. And sorry about that, everyone. So, yeah, that was my mistake. I was connected to the wrong Wi-Fi. Now I'm connected. Connection should be. I apologize. Lost the last minute of the show there, but we are still rolling, and the show will go on. A clip from the Georgia toddler who was injured in a stun grenade drug raid by members of the Georgia SWAT team. Oh, yikes. Well, we gotta get through that video and talk about some of the people
looking first, and it landed right in his place.
Here's our video starting way later than I want it. A medic on the scene rushed the baby outside. A nearby ambulance was summoned. Authorities wanted to transport the baby via life flight to Atlanta's Grady Memorial Hospital, 75 miles southwest of Cornelia. But weather conditions was brutal. He didn't deserve any of this. A Grady official said it's hospital policy not to disclose patients' conditions, but the child's mother, Alicia Fonosava, told CNN affiliate WSB that doctors put her son into an induced coma. She further told the station the family was sleeping at her sister-in-law's house when the police arrived, and the grenade seared a hole through the portable playpen after exploding on the child's pillow. I believe this video is loaded.
Exploded on his pillow right in his face.
This is the playpen this little boy was sleeping in.
No clothes, there was no toys, there was nothing else in the home. We would have done something.
Foreman told Habersham Cornelia home on Lakeview Heights Circle. The SRT then hit the home with this no-knock warrant for an alleged methamphetamine dealer at 2 a.m. Wednesday.
You're trying to minimize anything that could go wrong. And in this case, the greatest thing went wrong.
The Frunzvenow family from Wisconsin themselves.
Is it going to make us be more careful in the next one? Yes, ma'am. It is. It's going to make us double.
Connection lost.
So it says, according to Habersham County Sheriff Assistant District Attorney Edward Staples, the public defender's office will be unable because of the circumstances regarding the public. It further explains. Well, I guess that's it. But I think that's pretty underhanded. Joining me now is Rich Paul, a freedom activist in New Hampshire, and move on in here so you can be on camera, Rich. And he's been doing something interesting that I overheard while I was walking around Keene, New Hampshire. You were leaving a message for the sheriff of Habersham County. Tell us about your form of peaceful resistance with regard to this story.
Well, basically, I heard about this through Facebook, and I was really upset. And something that I've always done when I read about these cases of police brutality is I'll call up the police department involved, and I'll basically tell them what I think about them. And I get them, I'll get the most senior people I can on the phone in that police department, and I tell them that the American people are tired of having our doors kicked down, of having our families terrified, of having our pets killed, and frequently of having our family members killed. And sometimes it's people who are in the drug business. Well, people in the drug business have a right to live too. And sometimes it's people like these people who weren't even involved in any drug business. They were bloody refugees from a burned out house in Wisconsin, and the sheriff's department comes along and just victimizes them again.
Do you think it's an effective method to call these people up and, just make it personal? Do you think that you're really reaching the criminals, or are you just pestering their friends and other coworkers?
I don't know if it really reaches them. I hope that some of these people will rethink their career choices and rethink their choices that they make on the job, even if they don't change jobs. But it's hard to say. It certainly allows me to vent a lot of the rage that I feel when I see what these drug warriors do.
So is it more about doing something cathartic and productive with your anger, that you hear a story like this, and then I ask myself, what can I do? What do I do now that I've heard this horrible story, this poor toddler? How can I even help? And so it sounds like you have this cathartic way of just reaching out and giving them a phone call and telling them what's on your mind.
Yeah, it's
Why not?
not a bad plan.
Why don't more people do this?
I don't know. Maybe we should start recording some of these calls and put them on the air.
That would be cool.
See if people follow suit.
Yeah, you want to do one when we come back? Do a call to the sheriff and leave a message for him?
Oh,
we can do it while we're on break. We'll record it.
Okay, sounds like a thought.
All right. Peace.
All right, peace.
We'll be right back with more Peace News Now when we return on LRN.FM.
Hi, I'm Derek J. To me, an activist's calling is to actively work to advance a cause. The cause for which I work is personal freedom. I believe my life is best when I engage in voluntary interactions and self-government. I reject the idea that anyone else has a higher claim to my life or my body than I do. I see people who call themselves the government as a threat to my personal freedom. I realize you may feel differently, but my relationship with the people who call themselves the government is completely involuntary. If Starbucks used some of its money to drop bombs, I wouldn't shop there. So why would I support the American empire? The empire does not require my consent. Derek J's victim
disconnected. Error.
It means someone sneezing. Sneezer, as defined by marketing guru Seth Godin, is an opinion leader. When a sneezer mentions something, other people catch what Godin calls the idea virus. Seth Godin says some people are more likely to tell their friends about a great new idea. So identifying and courting sneezers is a key success factor for idea merchants. His book, Unleashing the Idea Virus, is the most downloaded ebook in history, and you can download the whole book free. That's how he's making his idea contagious. Click tips, tricks, and other stuff to help you cut through the clutter at www.survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
DVD, books, music, instruments, periodicals, computers, software, electronics, photo, cell phone, office products, home and garden, bed and bath, furniture, kitchen, pet supplies, automotive, hardware, apparel, shoes, jewelry, grocery, healthcare, sports and outdoors, toys, games, used, and more. It's a department store at your fingertips. Shop.lrn.fm. Get all your shopping done, get a great deal, and a portion of your purchase goes to benefit the Liberty Radio Network when you shop at Amazon via shop.lrn.fm.
We know you're out there. We can feel you now. We know that you're afraid. You're afraid of us. You're afraid of change. We don't know the future. We aren't here to tell you how this is going to end. We're here to tell you how it's going to begin. We're going back to editing the next edition of Freedom's Phoenix digital magazine now, where we are telling the people what you don't want them to know. We're showing them a world without you, a world without rules and controls, without borders or boundaries, a world where anything is possible. Where we go from there is a choice we leave to you. Subscribe at freedomsphoenixeasy.com. That's freedoms with an S, phoenixeasing.com.
You can interact with other LRN listeners in our message board at forum.lrn.fm. That's forum.lrn.fm.
Welcome back to Peace News Now. We are live this Sunday, 2014, June 1st. Made it to half the year, Rich. Congratulations. So I'm excited to be back in Keene. You moved to Keene as part of the Free State Project. You recently got out of jail last time I saw you, and I talked about this earlier on this episode of Peace News Now about how you were facing 80 years, and you decided not to take the plea deal, as it's called. You know, what was that like for you? I've gotten to ask you that on camera, but not you know, face to face. So I mean, like, what was it like in saying no? I'm going to go to trial for crimes that could land me in jail for 80 years, and I'm going to refuse an offer of no time because I believe in the principle of it.
Well, it was scary, and you know, People would say, "Oh, I'm amazed that you weren't scared." Well, I was terrified, but you know, I kind of felt that I had to do it, partially because there's an appealable issue that I knew was coming. I knew we were going to get a bad jury instruction, and I knew that that was going to be an appealable error, and it might be a reversible error, and so as a result of my having spent a year in jail, I was able to preserve that for appeal, where if I had taken the plea bargain, I would have lost my right to appeal. And we've worked really hard on this appeal. We raised $11,000 to pay the best appeals lawyer in the state to take this on.
Wow.
And he's doing a great job. Oral arguments are July 18th, and we're going to need people outside the Supreme Court of New Hampshire during oral arguments to swing signs in favor of jury nullification.
Rock on. Well, is jury nullification, is that a concept you think most people in New Hampshire already get?
No, very few people in New Hampshire know about jury nullification, and they should. Because especially people who have a problem with some law, for example, gun rights people, people who smoke weed, people who do other drugs, people who are sex workers or want to patronize sex workers. Everybody has a reason to nullify some laws, and then you get into the possibility of convincing these people, well, hey, we'll tolerate you. We'll nullify your charges if you nullify ours, you know. And there's a lot of bad laws out there that deserve nullification. So my primary thing going forward is going to be with an organization called NH Jury, which is a New Hampshire jury nullification organization.
And are they related to FIJA, or are they completely different? Are they sort of part of the same umbrella? FIJA is the Fully Informed Jury Association, and they have a website too, right? FIJA.org.
Yeah, they do. And FIJA is facing a different set of problems than we are, because FIJA has always operated in an environment where you could not openly talk about jury nullification in court. You had to kind of lay it in the lines, and frequently you couldn't get an attorney to argue jury nullification for you because it didn't exist in statutes of these states. So we couldn't. So you had to be pro se. In New Hampshire, it's a very different matter, because in New Hampshire, because of the Free State Project, we have jury nullification enshrined in black letter law, and that means that we need the New Hampshire Jury Association needs to put out literature that is designed to educate attorneys about jury nullification, and when it might be a good idea for them. We need to determine the limits of what kind of evidence jury nullification allows us to introduce. There were times when when I was at trial, when my attorney asked questions, and the prosecutor objected because he said the question was irrelevant, and the judge ruled that it goes to nullification. Basically, that the answer to the question could stand to discredit the law. Now that's
Awesome.
a whole new world of evidence, and nobody thought of this, I think, when they wrote the jury nullification statute.
Wow.
But I mean, I can see actually bringing in an economist as an expert witness to say why the drug war is bad public policy in court. And if you can get acquittals on that basis, drug dealers, for example, are big-time risk takers.
Yeah.
Okay? They're willing to take a risk for a payoff. And so if you get to where 1 in 10 marijuana sales crimes is getting nullified,
that's going to change everything.
Yes, everybody's going to want to go to trial, and
Yeah.
they can't take us all to trial because they don't have the prosecutors, the judges, or the courtrooms to
Talk
do it.
about that. What would happen if more people took their issues to trial, or if just drug-related, or just drug dealers, or just one small section of the population took their charges to trial? I mean, what would change?
Well, I mean, the system would collapse if half of the people they charged went to trial. If even 15% of them went to trial. The problem with that strategy is that it is extremely expensive for the activist.
Well, you know what's especially cool about doing civil disobedience or peaceful non-cooperation in New Hampshire is that I think it's in some ways less risky than in other places because of the courts. Because you can bring a camera into the courtroom, you can make your arguments, and then it has that much more of an impact. If you do activism in New Jersey, for example, you're not allowed to bring a camera in, and you have to pay the state $200 just for a transcript of your trial. So you're just paying them more money, and you're not getting any sort of win out of that. But in New Hampshire, you're able to film your trials. Have you filmed any of your trials? Where can people see them?
All of my trials have been filmed and are available on YouTube. I don't have exact pointers to any, and there's several days of coverage, and you can also find the speech I made before my sentencing, which people tell me was pretty good. I haven't actually listened to it.
Really?
Yeah,
where's that? We should listen to it.
Okay, it's on YouTube.
Yeah.
I would search for Rich Paul sentencing.
Wow. Okay. Well, while we look that up, I'd like to know when you moved to New Hampshire.
I moved to New Hampshire in 2009. I had just left Citibank, and I'd been a member of the Free State Project for years, but that was when I decided it was time to move.
That's a big deal that you decided to leave a job like Citibank and pursue something completely different. What's the decision? Has it been a good one?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I kind of kamikazed the job at Citibank. I started teaching my coworkers Austrian economics, and this was during the bailouts. And my boss called me into his office, and he said, "You've got to stop teaching economics to these people because you're destroying the morale in your department." Because the implication of everything that I was teaching them was that the bailouts were going to be a disaster. And so anyway, he said I was destroying the morale in the department. And I said, "Well, I should hope so. I'm doing my best." And so at that point, they fired me. But yeah, I didn't want to participate in their system anymore. I still don't. I really don't want any part of it.
Well, you've been successful in disengaging from the old system and have made a new life for yourself. Coming up, I want to play a clip from that final speech before sentencing, and I want to hear what was on your mind while you were making that speech. You haven't heard it yourself in a long time, have you?
No, I haven't heard it since I said it.
Wow. All right, well, then this will be interesting. I'd like to hear your commentary. We'll be back. This is Peace News Now. We are live in Keene, New Hampshire with Rich Paul. Oh, time for your thoughts and calls if you make them quick.
Have you ever wanted to move to the land of Libertarian paradise, where there's fun for everyone that doesn't initiate force on others, fun for the kids, parties for the adults, buy and sell in silver or Bitcoin, scenic hikes and gun shoots, speeches to educate us all? The Porcupine Freedom Festival is Libpair in the White Mountains of New Hampshire for a week this summer, June 22nd to 29th. Get your tickets now before there's no more room. PorcFest, the event of a lifetime. PorcFest.com. That's PorcFest.com.
Free Talk Live.
Oh, if only everyone were to behave in the way I think they should behave, humanity would be better off. Again, it's just trying to impose one's vision on others. You can't be humane to others by being inhumane in the first place. And by forcing them to behave or do things that you want them to do or think in the way that you want them to think, that's inhumane. You're not respecting their choices as a free, sovereign individual. And that's what liberty is all about. You respect the rights of others to live their lives, even in self-destructive ways that you think are a bad choice, so that in turn, you have the right to live your life.
Okay, everybody, we decided to just start playing the clip of Rich Paul's speech at sentencing. So here it is. You can check it out on YouTube. It's at Free Keen, and I found it easily by Googling Rich Paul sentencing, and it was the first search result. Here we go.
Law, where the law does exactly what the codependent does. It nags through public service announcements. It attempts violence against people who use drugs that it doesn't believe they should be using. It does all the things that codependents do, and it does nobody any good. That's where it started. Also, during this time, I would see kids get arrested. And, you know, these are mostly 18, 19, 20-year-old kids. And you'd see them, they'd get arrested, and they'd start going to meetings, you know. And they'd be these nice kids. They'd sober up, they'd be great, you'd have a good time with them, and then eventually their charges would catch up with them, and they'd go off to prison. And when they went to prison, they came back wrong. It was like they'd been if you've read Stephen King, it was like they'd been buried in the pet cemetery. They came back wrong, and it was very difficult for us to help these kids. When they've been in prison, they've been victims of violence. In many cases, they've been sexually assaulted in prison. It's very difficult to put Humpty Dumpty back together again. And I wanted to tell these kids that you have to stand up against the system, but the thing is, it would have destroyed them to do it. It was the best thing for society for somebody to stand up and say, this is wrong, but it was the wrong thing for them. I couldn't advise somebody else to do that because it puts that activist at tremendous risk.
You talked about the people being broken in jail. Were you worried about that for yourself?
I definitely had concerns. I mean, if he had, well, I basically didn't have any intention of surviving a sentence of more than 5 or 6 years.
What do you mean surviving it?
My intention was if it was anything more than 5 or 6 years that I would hunger strike.
Wow.
And just put an end to it, both just because I don't want to experience 5 years in prison. And
it's really awful. It's really a horrible experience. It's not like a waiting room. It's not like life's waiting room. There are magazines and it's comfortable. It's awful. So all right, well we're coming back. I want to hear more of your thoughts.
9269.
If you enjoy LRN.FM, please contribute to your favorite shows via their websites and become an amplifier at amp.lrn.fm.
I've only got
That's
audio in my radio
amp.lrn.fm.
Mm-hmm. Welcome back to Peace News Now. That dance music means it's time for the show. We are back with Rich Paul, and we're listening to Rich Paul's speech that he gave at sentencing. Now, if you're listening in at LRN.FM, you've missed the beginning. It's okay. We will catch you up to speed, but if you want to see the full thing, you can either Google it on YouTube, search out Rich Paul sentencing, or catch this full episode on YouTube at Peace News Now. So let's continue. This is Rich Paul speaking to, what's the name of this judge? Where are you?
This is Judge Kissinger.
Okay, and set us up. Where are you, and why are you wearing that headset? What is that?
I'm wearing that headset because I'm a little deaf, and I wanted to be able to hear the proceedings well.
Okay. Well, okay, here we are.
And then there was Julie. Julie was diagnosed, she was in London when she was first diagnosed with cervical cancer, and she said, I have no interest in having children. Let's do a hysterectomy. Well, in England, the government makes your medical decisions for you, and they said, oh, no, no, no. You're too young for a hysterectomy, so we're going to scrape the precancerous cells off, patch you on your head, and send you on your way. Then, in America, it was recommended that she take medical marijuana, and that was not available to her.
Wow. It looks like you're really connecting with the judge when you're making this statement. Did you feel like you were connecting with him?
Yeah, I really did. I thought he was paying attention. He was really listening to what I was saying. You know, and yes.
Yeah. All right.
Because of the law. Also, one of my father's colleagues recommended a drug called an anti-angiogenic. It prevents the formation of new blood vessels, which are only needed in an adult when you're growing a tumor. Well, what the doctor said to me is that, well, it would take 6 months to get permission for her to take this drug, and by that time she'll be dead. So it's better if she just died than break the rules. That's wrong. It's wrong. Excuse me. Marijuana, we don't know very much about marijuana because research upon it is forbidden, but we do know some things. It's a tremendous anti-nausea aid. And when you're starving to death because you're undergoing chemotherapy, an anti-nausea aid is very important. Julie paid $700, or I paid $700 a month for Julie's patented anti-nausea aid. It's been shown to shrink tumors by the smoking. It's been shown that although the smoke contains more carcinogens than tobacco smoke, people who smoke it have a lower incidence of cancer, okay? Which implies that if somebody ate it, it would have tremendous anti-cancer properties. That hasn't been researched because it's against the law. So what I tell people that Julie died of, in short, is precancerous cells complicated by government interference. As to my future, there's been some talk of rehabilitation. The easiest way to rehabilitate me is simply for me to cross a state line into a state where I can take medical marijuana for my depression. At that point, I am no longer of any risk to society. My word means very much to me. I realize that in defending my honor in the very first part of this speech, that I put myself at great risk of the judge saying basically, who does this guy think he is? But I took that risk because my honor and my honesty are very important to me and my reputation. So what I will do is I will stand here and give you my word of honor that I will not sell any mind-altering substance again in violation of New Hampshire law. That I absolutely will not do. I plan to head for Michigan or Colorado once I am free to do so, where I can, as I say, take medical marijuana and be about my business. And now that I have this possibly chaotic quest out of my system, I intend to go back to programming a computer because I was good at it, and I believe with the aid of medical marijuana that I can be good at it again. And I realize that I talked for a long time, and I thank you for your patience. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Mr. Paul.
We'd like to invite you to visit freekeen.com. Freekeen.com features audio, video, and blogs chronicling the transition to a voluntary society. FreeKeen.com also has comments and discussion forums so you can be heard. FreeKeen.com.
I should be in Keene, New Hampshire with the Free Staters.
What do you think about that, Rich? Now, having seen it, was that emotional for you?
Yeah, a little bit. I didn't remember how emotional I was talking about Julie. And
who is Julie, for the listeners who don't know? What was that about?
Julie is my late wife who died of cancer in 2002, and that's kind of when I went from, at that point I was already libertarian and I was already unhappy with government, but that's when government kind of became my white whale. And I pretty much said, well, government killed my girl, so I'm going to kill the government.
What about the statements that you made at the end about moving to a state that has medical cannabis? Have you kept that desire, or are you looking to motivate the people of New Hampshire to change the laws here?
Well, the judge actually imposed 3 years of probation, so right now I'm not free to leave the state. Once I get off probation, I'll be free to leave the state, but I won't have any reason to do it because I won't be on probation anymore. So, what I was hoping for by saying that is that he would basically say, okay, well, do some jail time and then just do a suspended sentence for several years, in which case I would have done the same thing that you did and leave the state for a while until the clock ran out on that. But because I'm on probation, I'll be on probation wherever I go. And most states I can't move to. I could move to Michigan because my parents live there.
Well, we want you here, so yeah. I'm glad you're sticking around. As unfortunate as it is that you're not so free as you may like to be. So would you have to inform, what's like probation like? Do you have to inform another government employee if you want to move this, like leave, go to Brattleboro for a day and get some, Brattleboro's a hop, skip, and a jump. It's just about 20-minute drive from Keene, but it's in Vermont. It's a different state. So do you have to let someone know from the government when you're going to go and get berries from Vermont? And
yeah, technically I would be required to if I left the state. I haven't actually had to do that yet, but
yeah, but it's ridiculous. I mean, that would be a real complication. That would keep you from, if I was saying, hey, Rich, I'm going down to Brattleboro today, going to go shopping, and you want to come along, you would have to say, no, I have to inform my PO, and it's 5 o'clock or something, so I can't. They're not there, and like, aren't there layers of complication involved with all of this? Or
well, when I say I would, when you say I would have to, I remember giving a girlfriend a present one time, and she said, "Oh, you didn't have to do that." And I said, "Baby, I'm an anarchist. If I had to, I wouldn't have."
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, so you're as free as you want to be, right? But you're choosing to play by certain rules for your own benefit, right?
Yeah, I mean, basically, to the extent that I don't find the restrictions too onerous, I obey them because it's the cheapest thing to do, and when they become too irritating, I violate them.
Yeah, all right. Well, that's fair.
I won't imprison myself for fear of somebody else doing so. If somebody's going to imprison me, it's going to have to be somebody else.
What about coding? I was excited to hear you say you want to go back to coding. What's that about? What's the next step there?
Well, that is something that I'm strongly considering.
There's some Free Stater folks who work for Microsoft, true? Aren't there some folks who have moved to New Hampshire for more freedom, and there's like a big Microsoft branch here?
I don't know.
I think so. I think that, if you want to go work for a crazy, evil company,
yeah.
it's not like there are a ton of options, but Microsoft is one, and I think they're here in New Hampshire, so...
Yeah,
would you
work for them? Would I work for Microsoft?
Yeah.
Probably not.
You worked for Citibank. It doesn't get more evil than that.
Yeah, well, the difference is I was taking Adderall then, and I've stopped taking my Adderall since, and so I'm not going to be a 100-hour employee like I used to be for somebody, because that's just not the life I want.
Well, in the last...
But I would like to do some computer work.
All right, last 10 seconds. What's next for Rich Paul? What are you doing?
Right now, I'm going to be raising funds for NH Jury, which is in the process of forming a board and getting very serious about getting a lot of jury nullification in New Hampshire.
You fit it all in. Well done.
Free Press Publications is an independent, alternative media and publishing company founded in June 2009 with the mission of ensuring a free press for the freedom movement, and is committed to spreading the message of peace, freedom, love, and liberty. FPP also gives new authors an avenue for publishing freedom-oriented material. FPP brings you daily news and commentary at fpp.cc, as well as weekly news in the FPP Freedom Minute and Peace, Love, Liberty Radio at fppradio.com. The monthly newspaper FPP News at news.fpp.cc, and books at shop.fpp.cc. Find FPP online at fpp.cc. That's fpp.cc, as in Creative Commons.
Now that you've found the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM, you may want to help expose others to our great programs. To assist you in doing so, you'll find resources at promote.lrn.fm, including details on how to get a free bumper sticker, quarter-page flyers you can print out and distribute, banners for your website, as well as files that will allow you to make your own custom banners and graphics. Visit promote.lrn.fm and help bring new listeners to the Liberty Radio Network. That's promote.lrn.fm.
On LRN.FM, we talk a lot about alternative currencies. Did you know that now you can buy gold, silver, and other precious metals with Bitcoins? LRN.FM has partnered with Amaji Metals to bring you great prices on beautiful .999 fine silver, as well as gold, platinum, and other metals. Check out their selection and pay with Bitcoins or Federal Reserve notes at metal.lrn.fm. That's metal.lrn.fm.
More Peace News Now is coming up next, live after the news, here on the Liberty Radio Network, LRN.FM.
From Keene in the Shire, the Liberty Media capital of the world, this is Daryl W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Sunday, June 1st, 2014. Silver is trading at $18.83 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,251 per ounce, and according to BitcoinAverage.com, the average price of Bitcoin is $644. BenSwan.com reports candidates for minor political parties in Minnesota need to gather 2,000 signatures during a 2-week period that ends June 3rd to be listed on the ballot for statewide races. According to the Minnesota Libertarian Party, that's what gubernatorial candidate Chris Holbrook was attempting to do when he was approached by 5 local park police officers. Holbrook said, "We were sitting in the parking lot of the park, and 5 volunteers who were with me were starting to sort our literature. A park police officer came over to us and asked what we were doing. I told him that we were going to gather petition signatures, and he said, 'You can't do that here.' We know that we can. We are legally allowed." Because Holbrook and the LP volunteers were aware of the law, they explained their right to be at the park. Within 10 minutes, another 4 officers were on the scene. Holbrook and those with him began recording the confrontation with police. Holbrook said, "The officers asked me for my ID, which I refused because I had committed no crime. He ordered that we stopped filming with our cell phones, which he said was illegal. He then grabbed me, twisted my arm, and smashed me against his vehicle." Holbrook says that his shoulder was wrenched and injured, and the handcuffs actually cut through the skin around the wrist and actually caused it to begin bleeding. The next day, the charge against Holbrook had already been dropped as he received an apologetic call from the park police chief. FPP Radio News is brought to you by Roberts & Roberts Brokerage. For over 35 years, Roberts & Roberts has been a trusted source for buying and selling your investment-grade precious metals. They now take Bitcoin for purchasing precious metals so you can turn your profits into a long-term investment. Call Roberts & Roberts today for knowledgeable advice on investing. 800-874-9760. The BBC reports Sudanese authorities are to free a woman who was sentenced to death for having abandoned the Islamic faith, according to a foreign ministry official. Officials told the BBC that Miriam Ibrahim, who gave birth to a daughter in custody, will be freed in a few days. Abdoulaye Al-Zarrag, an undersecretary at the foreign ministry, said Sudan guaranteed religious freedom and was committed to protecting the woman. The Sudanese government has been facing international condemnation over the death sentence. In In an interview with the Times newspaper, British Prime Minister David Cameron described the ruling as barbaric and out of step with today's world. Ibrahim was brought up as an Orthodox Christian, but a Sudanese judge ruled earlier this month that she should be regarded as a Muslim because that had been her father's faith. She refused to renounce her Christianity and was sentenced to death by hanging for apostasy. On Wednesday, she gave birth to a daughter in her prison cell. The court said Ibrahim would be allowed to nurse her baby for 2 years before the sentence would be carried out. During the 2013 Porcupine Freedom Festival, Davi Barker presented an idea for a renegade psychological experiment. Since then, he has refined his idea and put his plan and research into writing. He explains, "We aim to show the world beyond a shadow of a doubt that power corrupts absolutely and corrupt authority deserves no obedience." Authoritarian Sociopathy is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores. The AP reports police used tear gas and water cannons on Saturday to push back crowds of protesters who defied a warning by Turkey's prime minister and gathered in Istanbul and Ankara on the anniversary of last year's nationwide anti-government demonstrations. Riot police fired tear gas on hundreds of protesters on a main pedestrian street leading to Istanbul's main square, Taksim, following a standoff with police. Clashes also erupted in the capital Ankara, where police used water cannons against a group of stone-throwing protesters. Large numbers of police blocked access to Taksim, and news reports earlier said authorities plan to deploy some 25,000 police officers and up to 50 anti-riot water cannon vehicles around the city to thwart the demonstrations. Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan warned activists to keep away from the square, saying authorities were under strict orders to prevent protest. Despite these bans, hundreds of people tried to reach Taksim. This has been FPP Radio News, online at fppradio.com.
It's the video sensation that's taking the internet by storm. A web series on YouTube passed the 100 views mark this week. Titled Andrew and John, the wildly popular webisodes feature roommates Andrew Vanier and John Haney playing fictionalized versions of themselves in unusual situations, mostly set in and around their Chicago apartment.
Dude, did you get my tart? What's a tart? Oh, you just texted me a fart.
Their latest short, titled Laundry Day, reached the unprecedented 100-view milestone this week after a heavy promotional push in which the duo posted the skits to their Facebook pages. The hit video features the roommates wearing unconventional outfits while scrounging up enough change to do laundry in their basement. Other popular episodes include Foreign Landlord, featuring John's friend Brett from work, and a video where Andrew suspects John might be a zombie.
Our videos consistently get over 50 views now, but Laundry Day, that's the first one that's really taken off.
Yeah, everyone I know has seen it.
It's completely viral.
This is the Onion News Network.
Hey everyone, welcome back. This is Peace News Now. I'm your host, Derek J. Check out what I do over at derekj.me. You can also check all of the past episodes of this show at peacenewsnow.com. You can interact with me and other listeners at peacenewsnow.com/live. That's where, if you're listening on any audio-only platform, you can go check out video of this program. Yes, we broadcast it live for you, and we talk about stories of peaceful resistance. Now, typically, I've got a Skype line connection open, plus a call-in number, neither of which are 100% up to speed, but that's okay. You know, the studio comes together one piece at a time, and we're going to make it a quality show every time. There's a lot going on that benswan.com has reported, and he's just, I know it's not all him. He has a team of people who report on this stuff, but I think it's especially, he has a good eye for selecting employees who choose great stories. You know, I'm obsessed with peaceful resistance, and one that caught my eye recently was posted just 2 days ago, where a congressional candidate was, where people who were running for the Libertarian Party were arrested for trying to collect signatures, and there's video of that that thank goodness people can share. This is one of the important things about the peaceful resistance is that it incorporates a lot of video and media, people sharing. So this is exactly the type of peaceful resistance that I want to see. I'll do a screen share for those of you watching at home. But this is from Ben Swan with 2Ns.com. Lake Calhoun, Minnesota. For months, BenSwan.com has reported on the uphill battle Libertarian candidates face when trying to obtain ballot access, including Ohio gubernatorial candidate Charlie Earl being kicked off the ballot 3 times in this election cycle, or for Florida gubernatorial candidate Adrian Wiley being arrested for driving without a license only a week after he was invited to take part in the state's one gubernatorial debate. But it is Minnesota gubernatorial candidate Chris Holbrook who may go down as facing the most outlandish attack on his attempt to get on the ballot. Holbrook was arrested Thursday afternoon at Lake Calhoun while gathering signatures to gain ballot access. I mean, they couldn't be more obvious about what they're trying to really do. They're trying to keep this guy from entering the race, and here he is collecting signatures to do that very thing, and they arrest him. According to the Minnesota Libertarian Party, candidates of minor political parties in Minnesota need to gather 2,000 signatures during a 2-week period that ends June 3rd to be listed on the ballot for statewide races. That was what Holbrook was attempting to do when he was approached by 5 local park police officers. Now, I can understand this is maybe they get a complaint about this. The police show up when people complain about things. If there are some strange people at the park gathering signatures, maybe if you're a busybody, that's something you want the police to be checking out, and I can understand that. But where it goes next is where it gets crazy. Quote, this is from Holbrook. We were sitting in the parking lot of the park, and the 5 volunteers who were with me were starting to sort out our literature. A park police officer came over to us and asked what we were doing. I told them that we were going to gather petition signatures, and he said, "You can't do that here." We know that we can. We are legally allowed. So, because Holbrook and the Libertarian Party volunteers were aware of the law, they explained their right to be at the park. And within 10 minutes, another 4 officers were on the scene. You know what an officer does when he doesn't know how to control the situation? Call in backup. Got to overpower them, right? Because there are 5 volunteers, there have to be 5 cops. It's all about numbers, right? And that's one of the reasons why the Free State Project is such a good idea. Concentrate those numbers in one geographic location, and when you can't be outnumbered, you can just peacefully resist without the consequences of violence. Now, because so the 4 more officers were called to the scene. Quote, the officers asked for my ID. This is what Holbrook says. They asked for my ID, which I refused because I had committed no crime. He ordered that we stop filming him with our cell phones and cameras, which he said was illegal. He then grabbed me, twisted my arm, and smashed me against his vehicle. I mean, is this Nazi Germany? Is this the Soviet Union? I mean, where are we in the world that people can't run for office without being thrown into a police car? If you're not one of the Reds or the Blues, the Republicans or the Democrats, if you don't fit into these square boxes, as Thomas Woods puts it, the 3x5 card of politically acceptable opinion. If you don't fit into that little box on that 3x5 card, if you're a little different, arrested. Thrown in a cage. That's why it's so important, I think, to have people like this Holbrook guy running. Although, I don't see what kind of change it's going to make other than waking people up to the fact of the police state. I mean, is he really going to win? He's trying to get on this ballot. I would say move to New Hampshire if you really want to win. There are libertarians who actually get elected here. Minnesota, maybe there are some, but I've never heard of them. Let's continue. Ultimately, the arresting officer charged Holbrook for selling and marketing in a public space without a permit. Was he selling anything? Was he marketing? That's an inaccurate charge. Non-commercial activity is permitted, and petition gathering falls under that heading. Petitioning is not considered advertising, and it's a protected activity under Minnesota and Minneapolis ordinances. They have the listing if you want to read them at benswan.com, but here's the exclusive video I'm going to share with you. Oh, it's muted. There we go.
Just stay back. I am 10 feet, 15 feet. I'll give you space.
Looks like they're really hurting this guy. And this, remember, is a candidate for office. He's running for governor. That's another one of these cop tactics. Say, calm down, and then they hurt you. Yeah, calm down while I'm twisting your arm behind your back. Look at this guy in a bright yellow shirt. No threat to anybody.
Get in the car and sit down.
And they're treating him like he's some thug.
What are you arresting him for?
They're the thugs.
Back up. I'm asking, what are you arresting him for? What are you doing? I'm asking, what are you arresting him for? What is your cause? I simply told him you can't advertise in the park. You need a permit for it. There's no free speech in public spaces. Is this a no free speech zone?
Great question. Excellent on the behalf of the videographer. One comment, he could turn the phone sideways. It is frustrating to watch these skinny videos.
A power trip right there.
But look, they've got all the park police thugs with their hands ready on their weapons. 3 lines, 3 people of defense. Between an unarmed person, and you got 5 armed goons. One guy just trying to run for public office. And these goons protecting the establishment. Do they even realize what they're doing? Well, that does it for this segment. When we come back, we'll hear the end of that story, because by Thursday evening, the charge against Holbrook had already been dropped. So what do you think this was really about? Peace News Now will return in minutes. Stay tuned.
If there was a place that liberty-minded people had been elected to political positions and were rolling back government, would you move there? If freedom lovers had secured a 20% voting bloc and can veto most bad bills, would you move? Well, the time has come to sign the pledge at freestateproject.org. These things have happened in New Hampshire, and you can join us and help. freestateproject.org. Sign up now at freestateproject.org.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. Find out about giving to our Google AdWords campaign at amp.freetalklive.com. That's amp.freetalklive.com.
Instead of just listening, you can also watch. See Liberty Radio Network's key New Hampshire-based live shows via our studio cam at cam.lrn.fm. Plus, you'll still be able to listen to the Liberty Radio Network via the cam feed in high quality 24/7, even when there's no live show being produced in our Keene studio. But wait, there's more. Our chat room is built into the cam page so you can interact with other listeners online. Listen, watch, and chat, all free at cam.lrn.fm. That's cam.lrn.fm.
This Your Family Today tip is brought to you by Boost Kid Essentials Nutritionally Complete Drink, providing your picky eater with essential nutrition and great taste in one drink. Visit us at kidessentials.com. To make sure your kids eat healthy, follow the 5-a-day plan. Serve 3 servings of vegetables and 2 servings of fruit daily. Remember, a serving could just mean a piece of fruit or a half cup of veggies. If your kids are picky eaters, ask a nutritionist about other sources. For more tips like these, visit us at parenthood.com/yourfamilytoday.
The 3 most important things you can do for LRN.FM are: 1. Let your friends know you're listening to LRN.FM on your social networking profile. 2. Buy the things you buy online through shop.lrn.fm. 3. Give $5 a month to the AMP program at amp.lrn.fm. You likely buy all kinds of things online. Amazon is the largest online retailer. You can get what you need at the same great prices, and LRN gets a cut. Please do your online shopping at shop.lrn.fm.
Are you looking for an excuse to come check New Hampshire this fall? You're invited to Keenvention. Keenvention is your chance to meet dozens of key liberty activists from across the Shire. You can explore the beautiful little city of Keene, discuss various forms of activism with seasoned veterans, do some Robin Hooding, and learn about making the move. Keenvention received rave reviews last year. If you missed it, visit keenvention.info for full video coverage of every speaker and panel. This year, Rich Paul is our first announced keynote speaker, and more are being announced now at keenvention.info. Join old and new friends and neighbors in Keene for Keenvention this October 31st through November 2nd. Tickets are available now at a special early bird price of just $40 via credit card or Bitcoin. That $40 price only lasts through PortFest, so don't delay. Reserve your tickets now at keenvention.info. Visit keenvention.info for more, or look for our page and event on Facebook. That's keenvention.info.
You can put the Liberty Radio Network on the air in your area. Visit broadcast.lrn.fm to learn how. Broadcast.lrn.fm.
Welcome back to Peace News Now. Hey, speaking of Libertarian candidates, longtime talk show host Gardner Goldsmith, who is a New Hampshire native, is running for U.S. Senate in New Hampshire as a Libertarian. And he's got a campaign website, and his first video is already out. Now, Gardner Goldsmith shares this station. He has his own show, Liberty Conspiracy, which I urge you to check out. Just Google Liberty Conspiracy, and you'll find all the related info. Here's what Gardner has to say. Gard for Senate.
Hi, I'm Gardner Goldsmith. I'm the Libertarian candidate for U.S. Senate from New Hampshire. I'm running against Jeanne Shaheen, the Democrat incumbent, and likely Scott Brown, the GOP nominee. I'm here on a bench in front of the kindergarten where I went to school in downtown Amherst. My parents paid for me to go here when I was 5 years old. And I'm here to talk to you about the Libertarian side of the campaign. Growing up in New Hampshire, I really got a sense of a certain number of principles that seemed to be common among many of my neighbors, and seemed to have been common amongst the people who were the founders of the United States Constitution. The idea of individual liberty, leaving one's neighbor alone. And in fact, that's one of the core reasons why I'm here to talk to you now on this, our very first video. It's our first chance to tell you about why I'm in the race and what you can do to help. There are many people who believe in freedom in the state of New Hampshire. I just happen to be the guy on camera running in the race. But in deciding to do this, I knew it was incumbent on me to try to express the ideas of freedom for all those people. And as you see these videos, as you see them on YouTube and various websites, you'll see that we're attempting not just to run a campaign or a race. We're attempting to get ideas out, to express fundamental principles that unfortunately seem to be lost on many contemporary politicians. When I grew up in New Hampshire, there were lots of folks who understood the fundamental principles of individual liberty that went back not just to the Constitution and Articles of Confederation, but all the way back to Aristotle. These are historical principles that are so important. And in these videos, what we're hoping to do is tell people about one or two per video. First one we'd like to tell you about is the concept of negative reciprocity. The idea that you have a right to be left alone by me, and I have a right to be left alone by you. Supposedly, that's why governments are formed, so that you don't get your stuff taken by somebody and you don't take somebody else's stuff. You don't threaten somebody, and somebody doesn't threaten you. But if you think about it, what does most of the threatening now? What takes your stuff every day? What tells you how to live your life? Government. Government does that. Jeanne Shaheen does that. Scott Brown has done that. I wouldn't do that. I'm here to leave my neighbor alone and express the principles that the founders of this country believed in. And I hope you find these sorts of ideas interesting. We'll cover a panoply of concepts here in these videos. And if you like them, tell your friends about them. Go to our website, guard4senate.com. Think about getting the petition. Sign it. Get it to your friends. We need those signatures to be able to stay on the ballot, because the Democrats and Republicans don't like us there. Maybe it's because they don't understand freedom. Thanks for listening. We'll be seeing you.
He's right. The Democrats and the Republicans don't like seeing libertarians on the ballot. They like to keep it to just the two-party crowd because they're the establishment, and that keeps things as the status quo. So many people are just going to pull the red lever or the blue and never give a thought to the candidates or the issues. So I applaud Gardner Goldsmith at guard4senate.com for throwing his hat in the race. Why not? This is a state where libertarians can actually win. You know, I poo-poo a lot of elections around the country as libertarians try their best to get attention for the ideas of liberty, but it's just not popular anywhere else. Maybe that's changing due to their long, hard efforts, but I don't see a difference anywhere except for New Hampshire. That's where people are actually getting elected. But I'm surprised that he's even running as a libertarian. I'm surprised he wouldn't pull like a Ron Paul and just run as a Republican or a Democrat, because then you get all those extra votes from people who were just going to vote for you anyway. I guess he figures he wouldn't shake out in the primary, and it's an interesting thing. I wonder what motivates certain people like Gardner Goldsmith to run for Senate. He says, what inspires him are the ideas of freedom and getting these ideas out there. I think he does an excellent job communicating them as part of his radio show. But like I said, there are some politicians who actually get elected here and make a difference. One of them is Mark Warden, who at freekeen.com, Ian Freeman writes, Representative Mark Warden rails against the new gas tax and GPS rules. This column by State Representative Mark Warden appears in the Union Leader, where he expresses frustration with the new gas tax and dumb GPS rules. Reading from freekeen.com, citing... where was this originally posted? I'm not quite sure. Just said it. Union Leader. So he writes, and this is a politician who was actually elected to the State House. Quote, this year's New Hampshire legislature has launched an attack on anyone who drives an automobile. The Democrat-led House passed two major pieces of legislation that will adversely affect commuters, as well as tourists visiting the Granite State. The first is a 4-cent, or 23% increase in the gasoline tax. Driving to work, taking the kids to school, and going on a weekend trip will all be more expensive. Then there's the impact it'll have on groceries and other products because of the increased cost of transporting goods to market. Trucking and other transportation businesses will pass along higher expenses to consumers. This gas tax will have negative effects on already sluggish economy. While many agree that the condition of many roads is lacking, it's not for lack of funding. The problem with the new legislation is that the money is diverted to other uses that benefit drivers in other parts of the state, such as the I-93 widening project. Only 12% of the new revenue is earmarked for grants to municipalities. Perhaps the most ill-conceived and anti-liberty law passed this year is the new ban on using your cell phone or smartphone while behind the wheel. This is terrible legislation on a number of levels. First, it's virtually impossible to enforce. Expecting a policeman to discern whether you're using a phone as opposed to an MP3 player or any other handheld electronic device not banned by law is untenable. It puts the officer in an uncomfortable and ridiculous position of spying on drivers to see what they're holding in their hand, instead of attending to more pressing police business. There's also a part of the bill that limits the use of electronic GPSs unless it's mounted to your dashboard, which is crazy. This is turning the police, this is giving them all sorts of new powers to search and seize, and it's a backdoor for political power. More from Peace News Now when we return.
Following earlier reports of 27-year-old Mark Felder's profound and startling level of pride in his alma mater, the University of Miami alumnus spoke to Onion reporters about his strong affection for the academic institution that left him totally unprepared for the job market and floundering in $50,000 of debt.
I would not trade my time at the University of Miami for anything. Miami has the best college experience in the country, hands down. I had an awesome time there, and it's an amazing place. We've got awesome bars, awesome sports, an awesome campus, and we're pretty much right next to the beach. I mean, what more could you want? You have to be crazy not to go there.
Felder, who paid over $140,000 in tuition, told reporters he takes an annual trip to see a Hurricanes football game and visit the university that failed to teach him any marketable job skills whatsoever, leaving him so financially helpless he was forced to move back in with his parents after graduating.
AMI, fight, fight, fight! Yeah, it's all about the U, baby, all about the U. That's what I'm talking about. Go Canes, baby!
For more on this story, check this week's Onion Review.
This is the Onion News Network.
If you want to move to the free state and you're looking for some real estate, well, I know a guy who's really great. It's the realtor Mark Warden. Do you want a home with 20 acres, a lakeside cabin, any takers for renters, buyers, and sellers too? Mark Warden is the guy for you. PorcupineRealEstate.com.
What if the key to achieving liberty in your lifetime was to move together with others who think like you? Liberty activists are joining the Free State Project, which is over 70% of the way to its goal of 20,000 participants. And they're already making the move to New Hampshire. The successes are piling up and are proving the Free State Project is a real movement and no longer just a great idea. When you're planning your move, consider Keene. Keene is famous for its civil disobedience and non-cooperation, and there's plenty of political opportunity as well. From demonstrations and vigils to outreach and volunteering, there's a lot going on in Keene. Keene is the liberty media capital of the world, with television, talk radio, and more, all originating here. Though it's more than just activism, with regular social events each week. See what's happening at freekeene.com and get connected with video, audio, free books, a forum, and activist tools you can download and use in your area at freekeene.com. That's freekeene.com.
Did you know you can get news updates about what's happening with the Liberty Radio Network delivered in the way you prefer? You can sign up for our email updates at updates.lrn.fm. Plus, you can stay in the loop by joining our Facebook profile at facebook.lrn.fm or follow us at Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm. It's all free, so sign up now at updates.lrn.fm for news updates delivered to your email box, facebook.lrn.fm to follow our Facebook page, and twitter.lrn.fm to receive our tweets.
A meme is not easy to define.
What is it?
But you know it when you see it.
Amazing.
Don'tTreadOnMeme.com proves that.
I feel so enlightened.
Don't Tread on Meme, M-E-M-E, helping you give the finger to our monetary system of deception by providing you with silver dime trading cards. Unlike today's dollar, they have value, And they look neat, too. Oh, would you look at those? Aren't those just swell? Don'tTreadOnMeme.com. While you're browsing their numerous silver dime card designs, take time to download the easy-to-use Silver Calculator app. This simple piece of technology lets you know instantly, whether using iPhone or Android, just how much your silver coin is worth. Find out all the details at Don'tTreadOnMeme.com. Now accepting Bitcoin. Don't Tread on Meme, your path to a voluntary society with honest money. Don'tTreadOnMeme.com, serving you faster than the Fed prints money.
You can connect with the Liberty Radio Network via our Facebook page at facebook.lrn.fm. That's facebook.lrn.fm.
Welcome back. This is Peace News Now. I'm Derek J. We're talking about GPS law in New Hampshire. It's ridiculous. Mark Warden has the courage to speak out against it. He's a person who moved to New Hampshire for more freedom and decided to get active, became an elected state representative. And now he's speaking out in a letter to the Union Leader, one of the most popular newspapers in the state. Continuing with his op-ed, he writes, this legislation... Oh, excuse me, I skipped a paragraph. He's talking about how ridiculous a new piece of legislation is, that this new gas tax will hurt the economy, discourage new businesses, and the dumb GPS rule, which he explains here. He says, policemen, the bill also prohibits the use of electronic GPS devices unless mounted to your dashboard. The new prohibition will lead to more, not fewer, problems. It's foolish to think that using a fold-out map or a spiral-bound atlas to find your destination is somehow safer than technology, much of which gives audible commands. The legislation is feel-good policy at its worst. Though texting while driving is demonized, many other time-saving uses of smartphones, including voice calls, are caught in a wide net of illegality. It's throwing the baby out with the bathwater to ban all of the handheld devices by drivers because you're offending somebody by sending a text. The vast majority of drivers have been operating their vehicles quite safely for years while using car radios, GPS devices, and cell phones. Salespeople, businesswomen and men, educators, retirees, and even emergency response personnel, including police, are prohibited from using handheld cell phones under this new law. Foisted on the people by big government members of the House and Senate, reduced productivity and less leisure time will be the result. Democrat Governor Maggie Hassan signed the bill into law, knowing full well that there are already reasonable laws on the books against texting while driving and against distracted driving. So-called progressives in the legislature have an exuberant propensity for expanding government, regardless of the costs, and without regard to the erosion of personal freedoms in this state. As far as these nanny staters are concerned, if you drive, you are a danger to others, and you must be restricted and controlled. Well, those are the words of Mark Warden, and he speaks clearly about these positions of power that these politicians find themselves wrapped up in, and they end up making the wrong choice for the people. They erode freedoms, as he put it. Feel-good legislation. They want to do the right thing. They want to do the popular thing by the people, but they don't realize they're actually hurting freedom. I completely forgot earlier, and I remembered during this last break that we were in the middle of talking about the arrest video of Chris Holbrook, who is running for governor of Minnesota and as a Libertarian, and he was arrested for not having a permit as he was gathering signatures in the park. Now, we butted up against a break, and I wasn't able to finish the story. But what's more, after the arrest video, which you just saw, by Thursday evening, the charge against Holbrook had already been dropped, and he received an apologetic call from the park police chief. Wish there was audio recorded of that as well, because one of the only reason we're even talking about this story is because it happened on video. If it didn't happen on video, you can guarantee we wouldn't be talking about it, because there wouldn't be anything to show or play for you. There would be nothing to spread around the internet. So get video. When stuff like this is happening, the most important thing you could do as an activist is get video of it. Or get audio if you can't get video. Now, the Minneapolis Parks and Recreation Board apologized, according to the statement via Chris Steller, quote, "This afternoon, the Minneapolis Park Police issued a citation to Christopher Holbrook, Libertarian candidate for governor, for violation of Park Board Ordinance PB2-15, use of parks, parkways, and waters for financial gain. The incident and citation were reviewed this evening by Park Police Chief Jason Ojado, who determined that the officer erred and misapplied the ordinance. Park Police Chief Ojado has dismissed the citation. Chief Ojado directly contacted Mr. Holbrook this evening and apologized on behalf of the Minneapolis Park Police Department for the error in issuing the citation." Well, that's nice. Thanks for the apology. Can I have my freedom back? The Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board and the Park Police Department understands and upholds First Amendment and freedom of speech in the parks. As for Holbrook, he says that rather than receiving a call from the chief, he wants to know that the officer who assaulted him wasn't making the call. He wants to know, why the officer who, quote, assaulted him wasn't making the call. He hasn't been given an answer. He asks why he feels targeted, and Holbrook's answer is fairly simple. When you see 5 guys wearing yellow t-shirts that say, "Question authority," the authorities respond to that. It's a great point. Whenever you do something, when the nail that sticks up is the one that gets hammered down, right? So I would just like to see more people like Chris Holbrook who have the courage to stand up and say, question authority. Let's change this two-party system. Let's give people a choice other than red and blue and tyranny. It's always the same. And, I'm excited by that. So, what else fits into this topic of peaceful resistance? We're not going to be able to make it to all of the stories today, but Robin Hood of Keene is one of the most popular acts of peaceful resistance. It's really changing the environment of the town. It's changing the way the activists interact with the general public, and it's changing the attitudes that the general public have towards the local government and their parking enforcement. Now, one man who's been, let's say, emotionally affected by Robin Hood made his complaints vocal, and I'll share that video with you now. This comes from freekeen.com, where Garrett Ian of freeconcord.org was able to get exclusive video of this man wearing the red shirt as he heckled Garrett for feeding the parking meters of people whose time had expired. Now, eventually, Jane, the parking enforcer, who you see there walking with her enforcement ticket gun, is going to call the police on the man to her left for what he's about to say to Garrett.
So earlier today I was speaking with my friend...
I don't give a shit about you earlier today. You're nothing but a freeloading hobo. Take my picture.
Well, that's not very nice.
You ever worked? Ever had a job? Answer me. Have you ever had a job?
Well, why don't we be more civil with each other?
I'm being civilized. You ever had a job?
I do.
Leave this lady alone. She's doing her job.
I think she does a very good job at what she does.
Now, you around. Take a picture of yourself. You ever seen anything like that? That style went out in the 70s.
So my name's Garrett.
Before, do you?
My name's Garrett. I don't know if you're interested in sharing your name.
I don't give a shit about your name, pal.
Oh, that's not very
You're
nice.
nothing but a welfare case. You get food stamps? You get food stamps?
Do you hold something?
Taxpayers pay for them.
Do you hold something against people who do?
Taxpayers pay for your food stamps.
I don't get food stamps, but do you hold something against people who do use food stamps?
Kitchen? Go to the free food place? the taxpayers pay for.
You sure seem to be
Wow.
very insistent about knowing other people's business.
Okay, so this conversation takes place while sirens are around. We're going to get back to that when we return. We're going to see what this man does. Unlike other hecklers, he doesn't get violent, thank goodness. But he has some interesting words to exchange with Garrett, and I have some commentary that I want to add to what Garrett did to handle this situation. I think he did an excellent job of deflecting the insults that were thrown at him and refocusing on the issue, which is compassion. Peace News Now returns after this.
In every age, a technology is created that upends the foundations of society. The wheel, the printing press, the internet. Now, in a world sliding into financial chaos, a new technology is changing the way monetary systems work around the world. It is called Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a new form of money controlled not by banks, governments, or corporations, but through mutual commerce between free individuals. To learn more, visit weusecoins.com.
Since time began, tyrants have taken aim at personal liberties. Now there's a movie that aims back.
The government has no more right to tell us what to put in our bodies than they have to take our guns or tell us what books we can read.
6 drug police were eaten by bears while raiding a marijuana farm.
On your knees, you dirty hippie! Jesus. On your knees! What's the problem, officer?
Today, many cops who enforce pot laws do so only because it provides them with cushy jobs, good benefits, and a chance to push people around.
I was an undercover narcotics officer. The drug war is nothing but a farce.
The Second Amendment says you gotta keep you and your gat intact.
Guns and Weed, The Road to Freedom. A film by Michael W. Dean and Nima Badadi.
DVD available now at gunsandweed.com or on Amazon. That's gunsandweed.com. Makes the perfect gift. Remember, that's gunsandweed.com.
Imagine someone in your community getting in their car, turning on the radio, and hearing the Liberty Radio Network. You can make that vision a reality with your own micro radio station. Visit broadcast.lrn.fm to learn how you can put our programs on the air in your area. You can have LRN.FM running around the clock, and you can even add in your own local shows. Building a radio station is simple, but programming isn't. That's where LRN.FM comes in. Learn more at broadcast.lrn.fm. That's broadcast.lrn.fm.
Liberty activists around the country are starting to realize politics alone won't set us free. So what will? At Liberty on the Rocks, we believe the answer starts with living your principles, spreading ideas, and connecting with those around you. By starting a Liberty on the Rocks network, you can make a difference by uniting libertarian thinkers. Find out how much fun it is to build your local network from the ground up. Visit libertyontherocks.org today to get started.
The 3 most important things you can do for LRN.FM are: 1. Let your friends know you're listening to LRN.FM on your social networking profile. 2. Buy the things you buy online through shop.lrn.fm. 3. Give $5 a month to the AMP program at amp.lrn.fm. It's my firm belief that the AMP program is the best use of your charitable dollar among liberty-oriented groups. Support all your favorite organizations, but make sure you give $5 a month to the AMP program at amp.lrn.fm.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here, and I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, add yourself to the Shire map at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com.
While our satellite channel is free to listen to, it's not free for us. You can help us cover our satellite costs with the chip-in on the right side of the page at lrn.fm.
Welcome back, good people of LRN.FM. This is Derek J, bringing you the last segment of Peace News Now. We are live, though we're not taking calls this episode. Hey, have you noticed I'm wearing this sexy shirt? Yeah, it's got a nice red and blue symbol on it. It's a shield, and the word across my chest says, Peacekeeper, because I am a peacekeeper. And the back, I'll even show off here. The back of the shirt says, I don't know if you can read, be a force for good in your neighborhood. And that's exactly what I want to be. I want my neighbors to know me as someone they can trust and someone they can go to for help if needed, borrow a cup of sugar or whatever. And but Peacekeeper is more than that. It's about responding to emergencies and having a network of people in your community who you can rely on to essentially replace the police. It's a really cool idea. If you haven't already heard about it or checked it out, you can download the app for iPhone today. It's at peacekeeper.org. Or you can wait 2 weeks, June 15th. The Android app is coming out. That's the one I'm waiting on. I can't wait to use it. I've already used the app on an iPhone, done a couple of test emergencies with my friends and neighbors and family, and it works just great. And if you want a shirt just like this one, you can also pick up some cool decals at peacekeeper.org. They've got a button on their site for gear, and when you buy a shirt like this, it helps support the project. So not only can you show off to your friends about this cool app and share that you're a peacekeeper and maybe hand them out to some members of your community, not only can you look good, but you can help promote the app and spread it far and wide. This is an app that could be revolutionary. You know, there are a lot of popular apps like Angry Ninja Monkey something, Angry Birds, and all of these are great games, but our phones have revolutionized the way we do so many things. It's not just for games. It could replace the police, and that's a big deal. I want to replace the police with friendly members of my community who I know. The app, when responding to an emergency, it puts all the friends in your group in an immediate chat room. They can talk to each other about ways to help out. Anyway, we'll talk more about Peacekeeper in a couple of weeks. We'll have Cody Drummond on to talk about the app when it's released for Android. But that aside, let's return to the story of this man who is heckling a Robin Hooder in Keene and what ends up happening with him. Here, we'll continue from freekeene.com. Here's the clip.
Your bike. You're freeloaded. I'm implying.
Yes, you're implying a lot of negative things. You don't want to imply positive things about others. You're putting negativity out into the world.
Job, so these streets can get cleared of the snow and the rain. You know?
Well, Jane's a very positive person. I don't know if she appreciates someone coming up and spreading lots of negativity, but it's up to her.
She don't probably like you. How'd you afford the camera if it don't work? Is that stolen?
So he just seems to be provoking Garrett. He's asking if his camera is stolen. He's accusing him of not working. He's just being belligerent and negative, as Garrett points out continually. So let's skip ahead. He does something interesting up here. He gets in the way of not just Garrett, but the parking enforcer as well.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yep. And you listen to the people who support Robin Hood, they're saying thank you, and they recognize him as Robin Hood, and he feeds their meter on their behalf. But this man, this troll, he just wants to berate and belittle Garrett.
Nice. You shouldn't steal from people.
It really provides an excellent example, I think.
Thank you.
It's
I'm glad to hear it.
beautiful visual of
Thank you. We were going to put
behavior to emulate and behavior to
I'm Garrett.
refrain from.
Yes. 2 hours, 1 tea. What's up, Jamie?
Jane.
Hey, nice to meet you, Jane.
And Joel. We're all Jays.
Oh, yes. This is Jane as well.
Oh, thank you. How much do I have? How many minutes?
I put an hour in there for you.
Oh, my God. God bless you.
Yep, you're good till the end of enforcement.
Oh, thank you.
Haha, so now they know they won't be getting a ticket today, thanks to Robin Hood. But this man has a problem with that. I mean, I think that's one of the coolest things people could ever do. And now listen to what this man says and what he's going to do. He gets in between Garrett and the meter, actually physically obstructs it, so that Garrett isn't able to feed the next meter. He's running with his bike, and he hugs this meter. He sees, here's our opportunity. Oh, and he gets in Jane's way. Jane is the parking enforcer. Let's skip ahead. See right to the end.
Have you ever fed people?
Yeah. Have you?
What have you done? Yeah, I had a People's Barbecue a few weeks ago. I didn't see you at it. Why didn't you show up to the? You didn't show up to the People's Barbecue.
I do. You have no money.
I bought all the supplies for the People's Barbecue because I care about the people.
How? How do you get your money?
You know, a Marxist would have a field day with you.
You stole drugs?
Do you like drugs?
Huh?
You like drugs?
Why do you?
I like drugs. The right ones, yeah.
Look at.
Well, I'm not going to make comments on physical appearance, but because it would be too easy in your case.
This guy, I just think he makes the activists look great, because a lot of these videos. Let me turn that down. A lot of these videos can be very boring. Garrett goes out every day, and he's always taking video of everything that's happening around him. A lot of the activists, I think it's standard procedure for the Robin Hooders to carry a video camera around and make commentary of what's happening in case anything interesting like this shows up. And this is what the best thing that Garrett could have hoped for is someone to chase him around and look like a horrible enemy. Here's more of the clip. Now this is where you can tell Jane is getting upset. This parking enforcer, she's not pleased with all of this. And eventually she does call the police. Let's just end it there because there's breaking news. If you haven't already heard, on Friday morning the House voted 219 to 189, a pretty close vote, a difference of about 40, to halt prosecutions of medical marijuana users in states where medical marijuana is legal. They have a doctor's prescription for the medicine. Now, this is what I was referencing earlier, but I wanted to make sure we close and get this story in. As appropriations amendment offered by Representative Dana Rohrabacher from California. She's a Republican. It prohibits the DEA from spending funds to arrest medical marijuana users. Well, finally, a conservative who actually wants to rein in government spending. The amendment had bipartisan support. Rohrabacher said the amendment should be a no-brainer. Tom Angel, chairman of the marijuana majority, said, quote, "This historic vote shows just how quickly marijuana reform has become a mainstream issue." If any political observers weren't aware that the end of the war on marijuana is nearing, they just found out. And I wish that this wasn't just the end of the war on marijuana, but on all drugs. If we could just make the case that the world would be a safer place without the enforcement, and the drug enforcers are the ones that make the world so dangerous. As we started out the show with a story about that poor toddler who was damaged with a grenade to the face thanks to a drug raid. The cops were looking for methamphetamine. Would ending the war on marijuana stop that from happening? Certainly not. So we need to look at the root issue here, and it's that people own their bodies and should be free to choose what they want to do with it, as long as it's consensual, involving adults. So selling methamphetamine, who is the government to stand in between adults who want to do that? As distasteful and unhealthy as a decision as it may be. Angel issued the statement, quote, "This historic vote shows just how quickly has become a mainstream issue." She says, "The last time a similar amendment came up, it didn't come very close to passing, but since then, more states have passed medical marijuana laws, and a couple have even legalized marijuana for all adults. More states are on the way later this year, and in 2016, it's clear that more politicians are beginning to realize that the American people want the federal government to stop standing in the way." If any political observers weren't aware that the end of the war on marijuana is nearing, they just found out. And just moments later, the House also approved language that would stop the federal Justice Department from interfering with states that wish to grow industrial hemp, like Rand Paul's home state of Kentucky. The Senate will most likely be considering its own DEA appropriations bill, and the House amendment will still need to get through a joint conference before the DEA will be unable to use the funds to arrest medical marijuana users. Well, that's some good news. Let's hope that if it passed in the House, it will also pass in the Senate, and that politicians see that the end of the war on drugs is here. They can be on the right side of history, or they continue being tyrants. This is Peace News Now. We will return Tuesday with Brett Vinote of the School Sucks podcast. Coming up next, it's Free Talk Live. See y'all.
Many different ways.
I give you an order and you're going to obey it.
George, you can go this way. You can do that and you have to leave here.
You cannot bring Simon to the rally.
Walk with me.
Well, I'm comfortable here, actually.
Whoa. Hey. Who do you think you are?
Excuse me.
There is no video or audio allowed in this office.
No, I have work today. This is you ain't gonna make. Wait a minute.
Hey, that's an ad for Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree, and if you enjoyed it, you can check it out free at victimlesscrimespree.com. Now, if you enjoyed this program, I produce it for you because I think it's important to cover stories of peaceful resistance. I think it's probably the most important topic that we could be talking about. It's people using their actions, their short lifespan, to do courageous things and stand for principles. And that matters. That's what changes the world. So if you like this type of discussion, make a donation in Bitcoin, Litecoin, Dogecoin, Feathercoin, or Namecoin, or any other coin that you would like to give. Just send me an email at contact@peacenewsnow.com. I'd be happy to add a new QR code just for you. But this does it for most folks. A lot of people like to send a Bitcoin donation. I'm only asking for a couple of bucks here. If you enjoyed an episode, kick $1 my way. What's $1 in Bitcoin? Not much, especially with this recent tear up. So if you enjoy the show, Peace News Now is sponsored entirely by viewers like you, and every donation counts. Thank you.
Air guns, scopes, binoculars, laser sights, tactical flashlights, fish finders, and boating equipment. ManVentureOutpost.com is family owned and has the lowest prices. Go check it for yourself. Get it quick. Get